Let's get started. Our first storyteller tonight is a full professor at Northern Kentucky University, largely responsible for the NKU's Norse Media, which is a student-run media production company. And we're very fortunate that he's taken an interest in us because since telling this story in October of last year, he has become a member of our board, and we're very pleased to have him. But is he a lucky man? You decide for yourself when you hear his story that he's reprising from our first show of last season called True Luck. Please welcome Chris Strobel.
I never really believed in luck. I understand, good things happen, but I think that's really more of a perspective, right? Something that could be good for one person or in one situation could be bad for another person or another situation, vice versa. I mean, it's more perspective than anything. It's a yin and a yang. It's flexible. It's fluid. And then in high school, as young men want to do, I wanted to go to prom with my girlfriend. And I don't know if you know this, but prom is expensive. And, there's the tux. Well, on the guy's side, there's a dress for the girls and a whole bunch of stuff that I probably don't know about. There's the tux for the guy, and then there's dresses and there's flowers. And when we were going to take my girlfriend's mint condition 65 Mustang red hardtop. And to the best restaurant in town. And so I needed money. So I decided to get a summer job before my senior year. And I got a bike route to deliver newspapers. And I see there's a young person in the crowd, so if you don't know what a newspaper is or a bike route, it used to be you got your news where you jump. I would jump on the bike and then I'd ride around and I'd throw a rolled up thing of news and throw it on people's lawns and then, how they got the news. And when you're jumping on and off the bikes a lot, then accidents can happen. And one day I was going to the restroom, and I was a urinal, and I'm standing there and kind of doing my thing, and I thump. Something hit my hand, and it was hard. I was like, that's weird. So I kind of feel around, and my right testicle was like 3 inches long, and it was hard. And it didn't hurt or anything. I was like, that's different. I probably just bruised myself jumping on and off the bike all day. And so I didn't worry about it, and I went back to my regular life and did that the rest of my summer. And then my regular life included tennis. I was a tennis player in high school. I was a 4-year letterman. I know. Yeah, don't be too impressed. Because tennis teams in high school, at least at the time, needed 7 players. Ours had 6. My best friend was one of the star players, and so I became 7. Had never played before I joined the team. I learned on the job, and trust me, no one would ever confuse me with Bjorn Borg or Roger Federer or basically anybody who's any good at tennis. But to do tennis, to play varsity sports in high school, you had to have a physical. So I went to the doctor, before my senior year, and did the physical, including the lovely, everybody loves the turn your head and cough, and I did all that and passed it, and the doctor's getting ready, and I was like, hey, doc, can you maybe take another look down here? Because I bruised myself earlier in the summer, and it hasn't really gone away, and, I'm sure it's nothing, but can you take a look? And he's like, all right, whatever. And he examines me, and he stands up, and he looks at me, and he turns, and he walks out the room. Okay. I'll pull up my pants and see what happens. He comes back in, and he says, tomorrow morning, first thing, you have an appointment with your urologist. Because it wasn't a bruise. It was cancer. It was testicular cancer. Now, testicular cancer is the most common type of cancer for men age 15 to 35. It continues past 35, but other cancers catch up and it continues on. But there's only like 10,000 of them every year, 10,000 cases every year. And it's very curable if you find it. It's very curable nowadays, at least, if you catch it early. But how you catch it early, everybody knows that women should do a breast exam, right? And well, guys should do a testicular exam every month. Feeling around, making sure you don't find any nodes or lumps or anything like that. And honestly, there's a lot of people out here, and so since you're doing them every month, do them yourself, pair up, help each other out, however you want to get it done, just get it done. Because you finding it early is how you survive. Well, it found me in this case, so that was different. And how it found me, my right testicle was a big old hotbed of seminoma. Now, seminoma is a kind of testicular cancer. There's 5 different kinds, and it is the weakling, it is the wimpy of cancers. You treat it with radiation. It spreads slowly. There's surgery, and I learned a new word. If you remove a testicle, it's called an orchiectomy. So now you know that, so you're smarter too. And so when you have testicular cancer, that's the first step, orchiectomy. And then, so I had an orchiectomy, and they're poking around on me after that, and they're like, this is interesting, because there's tumors that are growing up your left side of your body. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, but your cancer is on your right side of the body, and there's lymph nodes over here too, so why is it over here? And I had a tumor about the size of a tennis ball next to my left kidney, some near my lungs. I was in 3rd stage. And so they poked around a little more, and guess what? On my left testicle, there was a little bitty, undetected, very small embryonal cell cancer. So not only did I have one kind of testicular cancer, I had 2 of 2 different kinds. And this one's aggressive. As it had spread quickly, it's aggressive, it's mean, it's tough, it requires chemotherapy. It's a whole different process. Now, when you have one testicle removed, your life goes on. Everything functions normally, testosterone normally, all the good things, all the bad things, all the responsibilities, kids, whatever it is, all normal. If you have 2, if you have bilateral, which I had to have because it had to come out. All right, there's ramifications, but that's down the road. So I had that. And then it was time for chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is tough. Fortunately, I lived down the road from literally the best place in the world to be treated for testicular cancer. It's the IU Med Center in Indianapolis. There was a sheik whose son had testicular cancer. They flew in, checked in the same day I did, because they could go wherever they wanted in the world. Whatever was the best place, they were going to go. And so they came to Indianapolis, and we drove 70 miles, and I was there. And so we were in the last stages of Dr. Einhorn's experimental treatments for chemotherapy for testicular cancer. Lawrence Einhorn, he's a genius. He's the reason that there are tens of thousands of people who are alive today, myself, the sheik's son included. Other people, John Kruk, Lance Armstrong, they all went to Einhorn. But this chemotherapy that we were in, the sessions were difficult. You're in the hospital for a week of them just basically pumping death chemicals into you, right? That's what chemotherapy is. And then you would go home for 3 weeks to recover so they can go back and have another week of death chemicals being pumped into you. And these death chemicals, what they do is it kills fast-growing cells. Fast-growing cells like cancer. Excellent. But fingernails and hair. That's why you lose your hair with chemotherapy. It's killing the fast-growing cells. And so I would do that. When I would go home after the hospital, not knowing what's going on, the next day I'd go back to school because I was healthy. Well, except for the cancer thing, but I was strong. I was able to do what I usually do. I would just, I even played tennis. Remember, I was a 4-year letterman. I was undefeated my senior year because I played one match against the worst team in the conference. My coach knew what he was doing and got me that letter, and we won. But I would sit in class and I would just pull my hair and drop it, and pull my hair and drop it, and pull my hair and drop it. Because the chemotherapy was working. And at the end of that process, a months-long process, on Friday the 13th of December 1985. Instead of having a surgery, my biggest surgery, which was going to open me up from chest to belly button, pull me open, take all the lymph nodes out so the cancer didn't have anywhere to go, they told me to go home because my last CAT scan and blood work came back and it was clear and I was cancer-free. Yeah. After stopping chemo, my hair came back, had a whole different body to it. I went from wearing somewhat ugly glasses to contacts. I had this whole other persona just in time for prom. Car, dinner, prom, it's great. All worked well. But it was a weird time because, you know, life can really throw you a curveball. And while I was a teenager and invincible and gonna live forever, there was cancer and I could die. I was planning on going to engineering school for string theory, theoretical physics, quantum mechanics. That was my path. My dad was a chemist. I like the sciences. I like the idea of doing research and teaching. And that was where I was going to go. But I also then realized that with all of this, life can be short. And maybe something more fun would be something to do, and maybe I can still make an impact somewhere. So I kind of pivoted. Well, not kind of pivoted. I pivoted. And I went into filmmaking. Because I could still work with physics, I could still work with light, I could still work with sound. I could tell stories, and maybe I could make a difference in the world in a different way, and have more fun doing it. And it was a blast. My junior year of college, I started working for a TV station and directing, and when I graduated, I became a production manager and ran the department for 4 years, and we made commercials and newscasts and sports and whatever. And I started to perhaps have that impact that I really wanted when I created and wrote a children's show that aired on Saturday mornings, an educational children's show that did really well. And that was very fulfilling, but probably what was the most impactful event for me was working the Muscular Dystrophy Association telethon. Now I'm guessing the young folks who may not know what newspapers are probably don't know what the MDA telethon was. And some of us may remember that. The Jerry Lewis telethon was we would stay on the air all weekend long and raise money to fight muscular dystrophy in television stations all across the country. And so this is my first year to produce it. And at the telethon, there was this new director for the MDA for our region. And let me tell you, she was interesting. And I was intrigued. And so I had a crew that was scheduled to go that night. And I was like, you know what, you guys, go home, get some sleep, make sure that you're prepared for tomorrow. I'll take one for the team. And I'll stay up all night with her. So we talked all night. And let me tell you, I knew that night, I was like, this is different. This is important. This is the one. And maybe it was sleep deprivation. I'm not sure. But I was like, all right, I got to tell her, because if this is going to go anywhere like I think it's going to go, and I think she's interested in me, then she needs to know that I'm special. I didn't just have an orchiectomy. I had a bilateral orchiectomy, and I cannot have kids. And so I told her that. And she said, oh, that's okay, we could adopt. I was like, oh, she is interested, okay. But then she had a question, and she said, well, but I do have a question. Can you have sex? I was like, well, yeah. 4 months later, we were engaged. And we just celebrated our 30th anniversary this year. Yeah. And it was the start of a great progression. We moved to the East Coast. I went to film school at American University to get the degree, to be able to teach, to do all that other stuff. I had a production company. We moved back here, or to here, not back. We moved to Cincinnati. Had that for 4 years and was able to find a job. Strangely, probably the best job, most perfect job for me and my interests at Northern Kentucky University, just across the river, where I've progressed through the ranks. I'm now a full professor. Got students in every television station here, New York, LA, Atlanta, around the world. Taught classes and led productions around the world as well, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Belize. That impact that I really wanted to have, I suppose I've had. But once I started teaching and didn't have a company that was just starting up and we became more financially solvent, it became time to revisit that question from that first date: should we adopt? And I gotta tell you, I had long thought that perhaps the whole thing with cancer was God saying, you really shouldn't be a father. We don't need to pass that along. And but I knew that Kim was going to be an outstanding mother, and I thought that I had a really good example in my dad that maybe I could live up to. And so we started the process, and it was a lot of paperwork, a lot of delays, but eventually, halfway around the world, in Fuling, China, we finally met our daughter, Zoa. And I gotta tell you, when I was sitting in a bus moving between Fuling to Chongqing, where we would finalize everything, and I'm watching Zoa sleep in Kim's arms. I mean, I knew that when I thought back, and I did think back at that time, that the worst bit of luck in my life, having that cancer, having both of those cancers, that awful thing wasn't that my perspective had changed. My yin was my yang, that was the best piece of luck I ever could have had. Because if I didn't have that, beyond being dead earlier, I would have never met my wife, and we would have never met our daughter. And if there's anything in my life that I'm probably pretty good at, it's being Kim's husband and being Zoa's dad. And I'm a lucky man.